Hey, good morning. Amen. We are here this morning. Good morning to all of our live viewers out there on Facebook. I never get a chance to give you all a shout out. I forget you're there because you should be here in the present. But that's okay. God is still good. We are here on this fabulous Sunday, the last Sunday of June, as we are growing into this wonderful space, a city-side spiritual community. I'm so happy to see all my family here, and we are going to have a good time as we're celebrating unity and pride, but also what we are about at this wonderful spiritual space, city-side. So why don't you get up on your feet? We're going to have a little fun this morning. We're going to change it up. That's what we like to do because we are family. Can y'all hear y'all say we are family? We are family. Say we are family. We are family. That's right, it's city-side. There you go. Up. Come on, everybody. and the things you do. You know the fun. Uh-oh, this is a family too. Sing it, y'all. Oh, yes, we are. Yeah. I got all my sisters and my brothers with me at the city side. Yeah, yeah. Get up, everybody, sing. Oh, 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 we are family. I got all my brothers. I got all my brothers and my sisters with me. Yeah, we are family. Get up, everybody, sing. Now let me hear y'all loud. Come on.
Leading people into a transformational relationship with God. Ooh, that resonates. Yes, it does. Okay, we are a social media friendly church. That means we just ask you to put your phones on silence. You can take pictures, you can email, you can do whatever you do, text during the service, send pictures, tell people where you are. We love that. We have yes and cards, so if you are new here today, we'd ask you to fill one out so we can put you on our mailing list. And so when you say yes and, we say yes to you. Now is our meet and greet, which is where we come and we get together and ask the question of the day, which is, have you been to the Pride Parade? So I've been to the Pride Parade in the past, so get up, meet and greet, and talk to each other. Happy Sunday.
Your seats, we're going to do a little meditation and pray in. Good morning, everyone. Reverend Amy Daniels. And I just actually invite everyone to just turn your energy inward now. And I have a practice in the morning. I like to just grab a spiritual book and see what pops up. So I just thought I'd read this and let this lead us into our meditation. And this is from Ernest Holmes' Creative Ideas. God lives in me. All life is one life. Just as every physical substance derives from one universal energy, so there is but one life principle, which is God, in which we all live, and from which infinite source our individual lives are drawn. If this life is everywhere present, it is also within us. To say that the life of God is the only life there is means that our life is not only in God and of God and from God, it is God in, as, and through us. If this were not true, we would have a life separate from God, which would be impossible. We must no longer deny that which we should affirm. The life of God is my life now.
Amen.
So I just invite you to hold this thought as we move into a few moments of meditation. The life of God is my life now. Truly God is all there is. The life of God is all that is ever happening. And I know that that life of God is my life, right here and right now. And as I know that for myself, I know that for each person who is here today, physically, each person on the live stream, everyone watching the service throughout the week, really everyone, because we are all one with the life of God. The life of God is happening through each and every person. And so from this place of oneness, I just speak a word of blessing on this service, just knowing that it is uplifting, that it is inspirational, that there is just a deepening understanding of how God speaks to us in our lives that is happening as this service. And I just bless Russ as he gives this talk, just knowing that Spirit speaks through him. I bless our wonderful musicians, just knowing that they are allowing the Spirit to express through them. And I bless each person who has stepped up to make today possible and who has given to Cityside in service. I also speak a word of blessing for Reverend Mark, who's out speaking at Unity in Woodstock today, just knowing that he is connected to us. And I bless everyone today at the Pride Parade, because we know the truth that God doesn't see gender, sexual orientation, race, because it's all God. And so I just know that this is just a really wonderful day of joy and celebration for the uniqueness of each person. I'm so grateful for this, so grateful to know that we can rest in knowing God as the truth of our lives. I'm so grateful for this wonderful Cityside community. I'm just so grateful to know this prayer is fulfilled now. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you, Reverend Amy, for that beautiful prayer. Because we are all out here trying to live our best lives, living it like it's golden, right, Monique?
That's right.
All right.
And I love this song. This song is called Living My Life Like It's Golden. And to me, this song is all about a freedom that we're born into spiritually, and being able to express that freedom and live in that freedom in joy and happiness and peace. And what better day to sing this selection than on Pride Day. So enjoy, guys. Feel free to move along with us.
Living my life like it's golden.
right place here. Connie told me there's a specific space I gotta be. All right, so happy Pride, everybody. I'm so happy to be here and to get to speak on Pride Sunday. And I gotta be honest, when Mark asked me to speak today, I actually didn't realize that today was the day of the Pride Parade. So I have to call out, here I am a white, cisgendered, straight male who's giving the talk on Pride. Oh, no. So, but don't worry, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. And really what I wanted to talk about to you guys today on Pride Sunday is to talk about spiritual bypass. And while it may not seem like that topic fits with Pride, I promise you they do go hand in hand. And we'll get into it. And I'd like to start with a story today. It's a story out of the Bhagavad Gita. And I think it's probably the best spiritual story that there is about not only the dangers of spiritual bypass, but also how we can move beyond spiritual bypass. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it starts off with our main character, Arjuna, who is sort of the embodiment of everything that is right and true. He is the embodiment of what it means to be the best human you can possibly be. And he is getting ready for this giant battle, this battle that was at the time considered to be a world war in India. And he is battling his 100 cousins who are meant to embody the sort of corruption, the evils of the time, the everything that is not in alignment with God. And these 100 cousins, they've got a bigger army, and they're well organized, and they're trying to take over India. So Arjuna, in the beginning of this battle, is in his chariot, and his charioteer is Krishna. Krishna, who was a sage, but also Krishna, who is considered to be an avatar of God. And what that means is that Krishna is sort of the embodiment of the fullness of the divine, the infinite nature of the divine in human form. So a good example would be like Jesus, the Buddha. A modern example would maybe be the Dalai Lama. And so Krishna is his charioteer, and they drive their chariot into the middle of the battlefield because Arjuna wants to survey all that is about to become in this battlefield. And something really interesting happens when he gets there. He looks at all of his cousins across from him, and he thinks to himself, my heart is breaking. How can I harm all of these cousins, all of my family? This is my family. These are my brothers, and how can I ever cause them harm? I cannot slay them. Instead, because my heart is breaking, I'm going to go into the woods, I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prayer and meditation. And of course, Krishna, being the embodiment of God, who knows a little bit better than Arjuna, turns to Arjuna and he says, no, that's a terrible idea. And proceeds to, throughout the rest of the Gita, show him why this act of him spiritually bypassing what is his divine duty in that moment is not only a bad thing, but also shows him what he can do to move forward in divine right action that is fueled and sourced by the divine within him. And so that's where the Gita goes, and we will come back to that in just a moment. But I wanted to undress what spiritual bypass really is. And get that slide up there. Yeah, that's what spiritual bypass is, guys. Really, and I love, Robert Augustus Masters started off his book, Spiritual Bypassing, which is all about spiritual bypassing, of course, by titling his intro chapter, Avoidance and Holy Drag. And that's really what spiritual bypassing is. It is the avoidance of really getting in relationship with the negative feelings, and I use air quotes around that because there really are no bad feelings, but the negative feelings that reside in all of us. You know, we are not Krishnas, we are not Buddhas, we are not Jesuses yet. And that's how I know that these feelings still reside in us. And the problem with spiritual bypass is that because these spiritual practices that we teach feel good, prayer feels good, meditation feels good, affirmations feel good, and that's great, and they should feel good. The problem shows up when we begin to use those practices to numb ourselves out from those areas of our lives that need to be healed. I'm going to say that again. The problem shows up when we use spiritual practices to numb ourselves to the pain that all it's trying to do is get our attention because there's something that's asking to be healed. It numbs us out. It's even worse about spiritual bypass is that it's addictive. Just like anything that makes us feel good, alcohol, narcotics, whatever it may be on the really severe end of the spectrum, it can become addictive. And what that means is that spiritual bypass can actually move from something we consciously do to something that is now unconscious. And now we've got sort of this program running on autopilot that is causing us to do some pretty funky things. And I'm speaking from experience on that one, guys. Seriously, it's really it's an ongoing process to gain awareness on it. But the thing is, we all do it. There's no judgment around this. Anybody who enters into spirituality, who really says yes to growing and to becoming more of God in this world, we all do it at some point in our lives. So there's no judgment around it. But the thing is, and this is where our awareness comes in, we have to build that awareness around what spiritual bypass is because it's not actually effective spiritual practice. Here's why. If I'm saying a prayer, if I'm going through our 5-step affirmative prayer because I want to change my consciousness about something, but that prayer is coming from my ego's desire to keep me safe, as opposed to that deeper divine desire in me to awaken and to grow and to become more of myself, then what I get back is my ego reflected back to me. That's what the universe hears. We may say certain words and those certain words go into the universe, but really the feeling tone behind it is our ego saying that I want to be safe, 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 build this wall, build this wall, build this wall, put on this armor, put on this armor, put on this armor. And that's what happens, and that's what we get more of in life. And so the invitation is for us to build an awareness around that. We don't stop doing our prayers, we don't stop doing our meditations, we don't stop doing our affirmations, but we do ask ourselves every single time, why am I doing this spiritual practice? And so how can we heal those spiritual bypasses? How can we bring in something that will move us forward, that will get us unstuck in what may be an unconscious process in our lives? Well, we do that through the practice of spiritual sacrifice. Let me get the next slide here. And go over the slide here and address it for y'all. Our ego is not the problem. The immaturity of our ego is the problem. The solution then is that we have to grow up in concert with our waking up. They are mutually dependent. We don't get to go to an ashram and just wake up and wake up and wake up and then go back into the world and act like we've grown up. There is growing up that we get to do, and we do that by healing our ego. And I want to tell a story here that really shows what I think is so powerful about this idea of spiritual sacrifice, this idea of sacrificing our ego to God so that God can transform it and create something new for us. And I think it's very appropriate, obviously for Pride, that we're actually coming up, I think, on the 59th anniversary of the Stonewall riots on June 28th. And for those who don't know, the Stonewall riots were riots that took place after the Stonewall Inn in New York City in 1969 was raided by the NYPD. And the Stonewall Inn was one of the very few places in New York City at the time that was gay-friendly. And not only was it gay-friendly, it was one of the very few gay clubs that actually allowed gay men to be there in drag. And so it was incredibly unique and it was incredibly pioneering for its time. And what happened was, of course, in this time where people were very much, not tolerant of any of gay culture, the police went and they raided the Stonewall Inn and they roughed up a bunch of people. They arrested anybody who was wearing drag because it was actually illegal to not dress to your gender at that time. And they rounded all these people up and kicked them out of the inn. And something really interesting happened. Rather than go home and sort of, lick their wounds and just sort of decompress from whatever just happened, those who weren't arrested, they stuck around the Stonewall Inn. They didn't actually go home, and they stayed there. And I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, the action that they took, but they actually began to throw things at the police. They began to riot. They began to make their voices heard in the only way that they knew how. And this riot went on for 5 whole days. And it's important because many scholars and historians believe that this was the catalyzing moment in the LGBTQ conversation that brought it up into the consciousness of the country. And it's important for our conversation today because if the people in that Stonewall Inn riot, if they had just chosen to go home, to tune out, to numb out, I have to ask, I don't know if the LGBTQ movement would be as strong and powerful and brilliant as it is today. Something happened, something was sparked within all of the people who were there. Something inside of them was sparked that allowed them to give up their ego's desire to play it safe over to God so that it could be transformed and so that they could catalyze a movement that we are still celebrating today and that we will continue to celebrate. They gave up their ego to God, and God transformed it for them. And it's not just the Stonewall Inn riots. If we look at Mahatma Gandhi in India, he could have chosen to just continue with his profession. He was a very smart, he's a very accomplished man, and not gotten involved with the movement to free India from British occupation. But instead, he gave his ego over to God, and it was transformed, and he became such a powerful leader for liberation, such a powerful leader that he was able to free India without bloodshed, which is something that had never happened in the history of humanity before. I mean, you talk about picking the hard road. It's like, we are going to free India, but we're not going to use any guns or bombs or anything like that. I mean, I don't think I could do that. I don't know. That's a lot. But the same goes for Dr. Martin Luther King. Would the civil rights movement have accomplished all that it has accomplished if he had just chosen to be a pastor with his own congregation and not to share his voice with the world? Not to give his ego over to God so that he could become more of himself, more of his higher self. The thing is, and this is what we really need to help our ego understand, and this is what we do the work for, we actually are eternal beings. And what that means is that there really isn't anything that can harm us. Not really. We may experience pain, we might experience suffering depending on where our consciousness is, but nothing, if we're eternal, can truly harm us. But we also need to get help. And we need to get help from God to help us really embody that it is okay to hand over our ego's willfulness over to God so that it can be transformed and so that we can grow. And so how do we do that? Get the next slide here. Well, this is actually a very simple practice, and I'm going to warn you, while it's a simple practice, it's not an easy practice, but it gets easier the more that we do it. And the first step that we do is we simply get quiet. We can do this in our meditations if we want, and ask God to show us where do we need to grow and where are we stuck in our lives. And then we just listen. And I would block off some time for this because if you're like me, sometimes it takes a little while to actually hear that response because my ego is getting in the way and telling me that, oh, this is not going to work. God's not going to talk to you. You're a crazy person. But, and be gentle with ourselves, obviously, here. But inevitably, we will get an answer. And that answer may come in the form of an image. It may be a feeling. It may be words. It may be a voice. Maybe an avatar of God will appear before you, whatever is perfect for you. And when we get that answer, what we then do is we ask God to sit with us, to lend its healing presence in whatever form best fits for us. while we explore and we work through healing the pain that has just been shown to us. And the whole point of this practice is that we sacrifice our willful ego in that moment. We give up its desire to keep safe, to stay safe. And we let go of that fear of experiencing our emotional pain, which, by the way, cannot harm us. I cannot say that enough. Our emotional pain cannot harm us. It is there to help us heal. So we sacrifice all of this to God, and what God does is God transforms this. God transforms it, and God transforms our ego, because living in this world of form, our ego is not something that's going to die and go away. It's something that we actually have to use to interact with the world of form. But what we want to do is we want to let God transform it, because we don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. You know, it's like trying to solve the problem with the same consciousness that created the problem. If the ego created our consciousness, how can we expect our ego to solve it? And so when we give our ego up over to God, God reintegrates it in us in a way that is, and don't get triggered by this word, but in a way that is subservient to our inner divine will. It's sort of like moving around who's driving the carriage of our life. You know, if you don't actually, take control of the horse that's driving your carriage, it's going to take you wherever. You're not going to really know where you land. But when we realize that there is a higher divine self within us that's asking to move forward in life, that wants to create something greater for us, that's the transformation that I'm talking about. And that's a transformation that I know that each and every one of us can do here. I believe at some point that's the transformation that happened for Krishna. That's the transformation that happened for Jesus. That's the transformation that happened with the Dalai Lama and with the Buddha and with Dr. King and with all of the protesters at the Stonewall riots. There was a moment inside of themselves where they said no more, and they let go of their ego's desire to run their life. And they gave it over to God, and something truly magnificent blossomed out of that. And that's what I know that we can do here at Cityside Spiritual Community. I know we've got our community potluck this afternoon at my house where we're going to be visioning, and one of the things that I hold for the vision is us really getting real with what's going on inside of us and really deepening our spiritual practices in a way that moves beyond spiritual bypass, where spiritual bypass isn't even a thing anymore, because we are so in our true spiritual authenticity that we are walking around as the avatars of God in our own perfect way. That's what I know resides in each and every one of us. And it may take some time, and that's okay, but that's why we're here together as a community, so that not only does God get to uplift us, but we get to uplift each other. We truly are family. And we truly do get to live that golden life when we come together as this community, when we spread the word of who and what we are here to be, and when we're courageous enough to walk with God into those darker parts of our soul, so that God can heal us, so that God can uplift us. That's the game that I'm here to play. And I'd like to close with this quote here from James Baldwin, who himself was one of the powerful voices of the LGBTQ movement as it was birthing itself. And he said, I can't remember where he said this, but he said this: love does not begin and end the way we seem to think that it does. Love is a battle. Love is a war. Love is a growing up. That's actually what the Bhagavad Gita teaches us, that love is this battle between our higher divine self that is unconditional love versus our ego that wants to hold us back, that wants to keep us playing small. Love is a war. It is a series of these battles. That is our life. We have to constantly be on guard of what our ego is trying to do to take away from us. And we can do that with God. And best of all, it's a growing up. Because authentic love is not Pollyanna. It is not this wishy-washy, we're always positive all the time. Authentic love is knowing that you can go and talk to your friends, talk to your community, and be an absolute flippin' mess.
Yeah.
And they love you all the more for it.
Yes.
That's who I know we are here to be, and that's why I'm so grateful to be here at Cityside. So my invitation for you in the weeks to come is to really get in touch with how is your ego holding you back. Ask God for help. Ask God for help. Ask God for help. Ooh, that's my timer. And see, God's helping me get done with this talk. So, and this is something that, believe me, God is not going to give us more than we can handle.
Amen.
Ever.
Yep.
It's not even possible. So, will you all join me in that practice in the weeks to come? Let's try doing it for 21 weeks. Can I get a yes on that?
Yes.
All right. So let's pray. Do a little praying here. Into the action of the law, I know that it is done, and so it is. Thank you. All right, well, I guess it's time for our collection here. So why don't we say our affirmation together? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. You can also give online for the live streamers today. We have text to give. If you don't have cash, you can text GIVE to 312-757-8111. You can also give through the donate link on our Cityside website. So thank you so much for all of the gifts that you give us. I can't say enough how grateful I am for you supporting us in this way, because this is how service happens. This is how we have the band. This is how we have Philip in his brilliance and Monique in her brilliance. And we get so much back for what we give. So thank you for being in your divine flow. Isn't it great that we get background music for our giving? How cool is that? So let me turn it over to the beautiful Lucy to do our announcements today.
You're so sweet. Woohoo! Hey, it's me again. Okay. We have this card that's on your seat, right? And it says, Worship in the Park, Music Inspiring Message, Sunday, July 15th at 10:30. And it is going to be held at Kowalsko, that's how I was told to say this, Kowalsko Park, which is at North Avers, is that correct?
Yes.
And Diversity.
And Diversity.
And it's 1 mile west, that way, I think,
Yep.
of Elastic Arts, where we are right now. So, that is going to be fun.
Yes. We're going to pack it out.
It's going to be fun.
Bring everybody.
Anytime you're outside in nature is fun. And also, the people walking by, you know, they're like, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing over there? What are they doing? It's like, hey, come on over. And they just might like it, you know. I think it's going to be a great experience, so I urge you to come. And then it says, bring a lunch and something to share. Ooh, we get to eat together. Yes. And I love picnics. How many like picnics? Oh, yes. So we do church, we fellowship, we eat together. What a fun day that's going to be. So put that on your calendars and join us, please. Now tonight, we have a community potluck, and Russ, yeah, go ahead. Please do.
Yeah, so we're holding this community potluck at my house, which is great because it's actually the first party I've gotten to hold at my house, which is awesome. So please feel free to come. If you can, try and RSVP before you come so we know how many people are coming. You can do that on the website. But if not, show up anyway. It's totally cool. And bring a dish or don't bring a dish. We've already got a lot of really great food that's going to be there. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be visioning for the highest purpose of Cityside. Who are we here to be? And I know I spoke on that a little bit here today, but I'm only one voice, and we want to hear all the voices. So I hope to see you there, and it's at 5 p.m. The address is 3313 North Sacramento here in Chicago. I do have a parking lot that you can park in. Otherwise, there is a lot of street parking in the neighborhood, and it's going to be fabulous.
Thanks, Russ. And Russ has a beautiful home. I've been there. It's just lovely. So please join us tonight. And if you have any questions about anything, you can ask me, Lucy Witt. I'm an assistant minister in training. Russ, Reverend Amy, John, Connie, Paul, Patrick. Who else? Philip.
Hey.
So we just love that you're here today, and happy Pride Day again. Have a great Sunday.
And before we conclude, you know what? We have a birthday. We had a birthday this weekend, and it's a special birthday because as we are growing in Cityside, and we're definitely wanting our youth to grow. I believe our first baby that is growing up in the church, Miss Raina, there she is. She just turned 7, everyone. What a golden number. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. She's not shy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Raina. Happy birthday, dear Raina. Happy birthday to you. Amen. All right, everybody. This is a celebration today. Come on, get up on your feet. Let's celebrate in a holy, holy way. Here we go.